So I'm in a great mood to start off day 13 because I just stayed at the cutest little place. It was an Airbnb called Down on the Farm. I'm a bit south, I think, of Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and it was awesome. I had the upstairs to myself for the night in their cute little house. And came down in the morning, and Mary made me breakfast. I had some coffee, and we talked for a while. I wrote about my, who I was and what I was doing in her little journal for her guests. And
he is a basketball freak, and not just to watch it, but to play it.
Breakfast she made me was this egg, potato, avocado hash that was delicious, and she had homemade grape juice from the grapes they had grown on the farm, like by their house. And olive bread and a bunch of fresh fruit, and it was just awesome. She had actually been worked for the Peace Corps after college. After she got married, it was one of their marriage conditions, I guess, that they go to the Peace Corps for a little bit. So she was in Swaziland for 2 years, originally to do some animal science stuff with pigs, but ultimately they found that there wasn't enough infrastructure for it, so they did construction mostly when they were there. She was telling me that when she was in Swaziland, her and her husband would travel around just by hitchhiking different places, and they would stay like at churches, and I can't remember the other place she told me, but they would just do crazy stuff to get around, and it's so much nicer having, like for me on my trip, having Airbnb and Google Maps and Booking.com and all these kinds of things to help me figure out my route and my plan. So it's crazy that she and her husband were so bold to do that, just, by the seat of their pants, hitchhiking around back then in Swaziland. Actually, when she was in Swaziland, and this is from my mom, she called home twice in 2 years, which is crazy because my mom has me FaceTiming like every other day, if not more often. But anyway, had traveled around the country a bunch, and was just the sweetest lady. And before I left, she said a prayer for me. So anyway, I'm now on the road, and I'm headed to the Lost 40 Trail, which is a trail, like a 2-mile trail through some old growth forest up northwest of here. So I'm gonna go run that real quick and then head on to Bemidji. It's called the Lost 40 Trail actually because all this area was logged some years ago, from starting centuries ago. But for whatever reason, when this Lost 40 area was surveyed, it was surveyed as like marshland or a lake or something like that. So it was never logged. So it's all old growth forest. So the trees are decades or centuries old. So I'm gonna go up there and check that out. And then, like I said, head to Bemidji and then Fargo, North Dakota from there. And then I'll be staying in Dazey, North Dakota, which is, I think, a bit northwest of Fargo. After leaving the Lost 40 Trail, I headed southwest to Bemidji, which is this old former lumber town. It's actually right where the Mississippi River starts. It comes kind of out of Lake Bemidji. It calls itself the first city on the Mississippi for that reason. But they're also famous for this statue they have of Paul Bunyan and his ox, Babe the Blue Ox. So if you don't know who Paul Bunyan is, he's this figure in American folklore who was this lumberjack with supposedly Herculean strength and size, and there are all these tales about him, like that the Grand Canyon was formed when he just dragged his axe behind him, and that the 10,000 lakes in Minnesota are Paul Bunyan's footsteps. Anyway, Bemidji claims to be Paul Bunyan's birthplace, and so anyway, they have that statue made out to him. And I'm headed out of Bemidji, and I am on my way to Fargo, North Dakota, which is right on the border between Minnesota and North Dakota. And so I'm going to check out that town a little bit and maybe grab dinner there before heading out to Dazey, North Dakota, where I'm staying tonight. So I just left Fargo, North Dakota. Much bigger than I expected and much more professional. I've been in a whole bunch of small towns across Minnesota, from Ely to Hibbing to Bemidji earlier today, that are all kind of small, sleepy lumber mining towns. And I expected Fargo to be more of the same, but it wasn't at all. It was a bit bigger and definitely felt much more like white collar than those towns. What was also unique about Fargo is that, in contrast to some of the other towns I just mentioned, it felt like it was growing, not shrinking. There was construction going on. In fact, its population is actually growing. So it's definitely not a town on the decline that's kind of past its former glory, like a lot of those towns in Minnesota seem to be. While I was there, I was also able to see the wood chipper from the movie Fargo, which was the city's main attraction. Not much of an event, but kind of cool to see. Tomorrow I'll be heading out to Bismarck, and then I'll keep going out west towards Teddy Roosevelt National Park.